In this lesson, we're going to look at how to write a problem and solution essay for task 2. We're going to look at the language of cause and effect and also how to express problems and solutions. So let's look at the task. Traffic congestion in our cities is causing serious problems. What are these problems and how could they be reduced? Okay, so here's our topic. We're going to look at a model essay, but first let's have a look at some paragraph organization for a problem and solution essay. So here's an example. So in paragraph 1, we could introduce the topic. Paragraph 2, identify the causes and effects of traffic congestion in our cities. And for paragraph 3, suggest possible measures, solution, action to be taken, and justify the recommended action. And finally, we'll have a conclusion where we summarize the main points from our essay. So here are some examples of causes and effects and possible solutions. Now there's a wide range of ideas here. We don't necessarily want to use them all, but we want to try and link them together into complex sentences and an overall coherent paragraphs. And I'll show you how to do that. But first of all, let's go back to our paragraph organization. We need to introduce the topic. So let's have a look back at the topic here. And what we're going to do is write an introduction and we're going to compare a good and a bad example. So firstly, the bad example. Now in this example, you can see that it has a good introductory sentence, states the topic. However, it starts to use generic phrases. Some people say that this is a good thing, other people say, and then finally it says, I will outline arguments for it against these two sides. Now, not only is it generic, that is, it could be said about any problem solution essay, but actually it's writing an opinion piece, outlining arguments for it and against. However, if we look back at the topic, you can see what we need to do is write about the problems and the solutions for traffic congestion. However, if we compare it to the good example of the introduction, here we can see that it clearly states the topic. The increasing amount of traffic congestion in our cities has been a growing cause for concern for some time. Such a buildup of cars on our roads is causing serious problems in terms of pollution and loss of productivity in the economy. It seems to be increasingly clear that measures need to be taken in order to address this issue. Now it outlines two of the problems, the pollution and loss of productivity, and these will be more fully developed using complex sentences in the following paragraphs. And I'll show you the language to use to do that. So if we look back at the paragraph organization in the next paragraph, paragraph 2, we're going to identify the causes and effects. Now here, even though there are lots of causes and effects, we can construct a well-organized paragraph showing the link between these ideas and the resulting effects if we use good language. So let's have a look at paragraph 2. So here in paragraph 2, it uses a wide range of complex sentences, good vocabulary, and a wide range of language to express cause and effect. So to begin with, it is cause for concern that increased traffic congestion is resulting in serious pollution problems in our major cities. It is clear that the increased number of cars on our roads is due to urban sprawl, which causes more and more people to rely solely on their private vehicles for commuting, going home and to work. This reliance on cars leads to an increase in the emission of harmful greenhouse gases and other dangerous pollutants, which contribute to global warming, as well as a rise in harmful effects for people. And then it goes on to talk about another worrying trend is the loss of productivity caused by the amount of time it now takes for people and goods to move about our congested cities. Therefore, as a result of this loss of productivities, companies experience an increased financial burden, which in turn has a detrimental effect on our overall economy. So it's linked two ideas, used a range of language, and put them together into a well-constructed paragraph. And it has done that by using two ways to express a problem. It is cause for concern that, and another worrying trend is. It's also used a wide range of ways to link together the ideas to express cause and effects. Is resulting in, is due to, leads to, etc. So now if we turn to the organization in paragraph 3, we're going to suggest possible solutions. So again, here we have a lot of possible solutions. We're just going to take the top 2, public transport and more incentives to use public transportation. So looking now at paragraph 3, We've taken those two ideas and we've fully developed them using complex sentences, range of ways to express solutions. We've used modal verbs, conditionals, and recommended action to be taken. So let's look at those examples in this paragraph. Now, first of all, clearly action needs to be taken to solve the problem, so a way to suggest a solution. One thing that would improve the situation is if, again, we're suggesting a solution, this would bring about. So we're trying to justify the action to be taken. So it could be used to, so here we're using modal verbs to suggest a possible way, and also we're saying furthermore the government should also provide. So again, we're using modal verbs to suggest possible solutions. And also we're using concession and conditionals to justify recommended action to be taken, as in these two examples here. Unless more thought is given to urban planning, this trend may not be reduced. And otherwise, the problem of reliance on private vehicles will continue. So this paragraph, we used a very good range of ways to justify and recommend action to be taken. And so if we look back at our paragraph organization, finally what we need to do is have a good conclusion and summarize the main points, and we're going to compare a good and a bad example. So if we look now at the conclusions, you can see here that they're basically the same, except our good conclusion refers specifically back to points made in the previous paragraphs, whereas the bad conclusion just talks about the problems and the action to be taken in general. And finally, things to remember for Task 2, Problem and Solution Essay. Spend a couple of minutes to make a plan. This will help you to organize your ideas when you're writing. You also need to organize your ideas into logical paragraphs, as is shown here. Also, use a range of ways to express cause and effect. And here are some examples. More can be found on the website, and you should use a wide range of this language. You should also use a range of expressions to describe problems and solutions. And here are some examples here. And finally, use a range of modal verbs and conditionals when suggesting possible solutions and justifying recommended action. And there are a number of ways to do this. To download a copy of the writing used here or the podcast, visit English Online Australia.